Recently, Lola and I sat down with Justin Emeka and Halle Morse from the Classical Theater of Harlem.
Let's take a look.
For the past 50 years, the only place to catch Shakespeare in New York outside has been in Central Park, but not anymore. A multi-million-dollar renovation to a space uptown is now bringing classical theater to Harlem.
Here to talk about their modern version of Midsummer Night's Dream and what it means to the ongoing Harlem Renaissance is the show's director, Justin Emeka, and lead actress, Halle Morse. Welcome guys.
Hello.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You guys, this is huge. How important is it for Shakespeare in the Park to be in Harlem?
Well, it's a wonderful opportunity that, really helps shine a light on Harlem's legacy, but not just the legacy of what happened before, but what's happening right now. Anything Harlem touches, Harlem forever changes.
That's true.
So we say that Shakespeare's coming to Harlem, but Harlem's coming to Shakespeare.
I like that. Well, there's been thousands of redone or remodified versions of the Shakespeare's work. So what makes this version of Midsummer Night's Dream different from all the others?
Well, I think that's what makes it so great is that because it is a classic, it has been done so many different ways and it can continue to be done that way. So I'm very excited about our production. We've, like you said, really embraced the Harlem culture. Harlem is so rich in culture and diversity. So we have assembled a very cultured cast with, we're really embracing different backgrounds. So, we've got Jamaican, people from West Indies and Puerto Rican. And so it's an entirely Black and Latina cast. So that's Latino.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How do you go about making a classic like this relevant to a modern Harlem-based audience? And that's how you do it, huh? That's one way.
Start there.
Yeah.
Right. You show their reflection within the play, because, really, Shakespeare is over 400 years old.
That's true.
Just because we're in Central Park, that audience is no closer to Shakespeare than we in Harlem are in that sense. So every challenge for every contemporary director of Shakespeare, you have to figure out your way in, for a contemporary audience.
Well, there are tons of different types of plays you could have done in Harlem. So why bring classic theater to a neighborhood like Harlem? Why was that important for you?
Well, I think, again, it's just great writing. Shakespeare is great writing, and it's just expanding the reach of great writing. And, I liken the process of what we're doing similar to music. So when John Coltrane plays My Favorite Things, it becomes a completely different thing. It doesn't threaten Oscar Hammerstein's version of My Favorite Things. It doesn't change it. It just it expands the reach of it, And we see that in music a lot, but we don't see that a lot in theater. Usually in theater, it's fairly conservative approach. So I think at one level, this is, kind of reflective of a new movement, a new approach in theater.
I love it. Well, the city is clearly committed. They've donated or offered millions to make this a reality. How has the community rallied around this project, though?
Well, the space is, it's a newly renovated space, and it's a city space, and the city has really been generous in letting Classical Theater of Harlem occupy the space and really do the first professional theatrical run in the space, And in order to get the city on board, we really had to get a lot of community support from local businesses, from the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. There was a lot of people who really got on board to sell the idea to the city.
Well, it seems like a lot of people in Harlem have actually come out and watched you all rehearse.
Already?
So what have they been saying? Have you heard any whispers from them like, oh, this is great or what?
It's really great to see them. They're very vocal, which is awesome.
It's home to the Apollo.
Right.
They're going to be vocal in Harlem.
Precisely, but
So what sorts
makes
of
it even
things
more
are you
exciting.
hearing when you're quoting Shakespeare?
Well, I think yesterday during our fight scene, people were just getting like rooting for us, you know what I mean? The people that are on stage. One time there was somebody who brought their little kid on the stage. He wanted to join us in the middle of rehearsal, which was cute. There was also a fight that was happening off stage that we heard, but you kind of.
Were you rooting for them?
No. Yeah, so it's things like that in an outdoor space that you have to, just kind of roll with the punches, but it makes it kind of cool and exciting.
So what brought each of you to this project? Halle, you start first.
Well, I actually have loved Midsummer Night's Dream since I was a little girl. It was one of the first plays that I saw, and it was the first Shakespeare play that I ever saw. My cousin actually was playing Oberon, and I was obsessed. I mean, I loved it. It was done at an all-girls high school, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the character Bottom, actually, who you'll see in our production is hilarious.
Yeah.
And my mother had a complete works of Shakespeare book in our living room that I never before then discovered, and just would read it, and I was in love with it. So I don't think I even told him this. I was really interested in the role of Puck, who's like the narrator.
The mischievous character,
The fairy character. So I was kind of auditioning with that in mind, but I didn't quite realize that Hermia is such a, I mean, it's something of a dream role. It's like a perfect fit for me as far as, you know, my physical appearance. You know, she's supposed to be of small stature. So, and it's been really, really exciting to do that. I have never done a Shakespeare play before, so.
All right. And Justin, what about you?
You know, I've been working with Classical Theater Harlem for probably about 2 years to just even cultivate this opportunity, you know. I love the play. I love the magic in the play, you know, and I always felt like it would really lend itself well to the magic of the play would lend itself well to the West African cosmology, you know. So we changed Puck to Eshualegba in the play without changing any of the text, you know, we refer to it. And then also just the fun nature of the way that it explores love and then, you know, the fickle nature of love.
Okay. Now, Halle, before this, you actually were in Hairspray, Mamma Mia, and Rent, you know, those great musicals.
Yes.
So how does this differ from those experiences?
You know, in many ways it does differ, and in some ways it doesn't. It's still a play, we're still telling a story. And I think what is different is, you know, it's all text, so there's not exactly singing. However, Shakespeare is very heightened in his, it's almost like poetry in his speech. So, you know, you kind of have to get to that place, you know, it requires a certain emotional level when you're singing a song. And I think you kind of live there in this material as well. So in that sense, it's not that different, but I mean, you know, there's also so much in the text that it's almost like a score of music, the way that we have to go through it and really pay attention to the way that he writes, the rhyming and the structure. So, you know, it's been different because I've never done that before, but it's been really exciting. So, yeah.
Now, Justin, you've also tackled other type of classical plays. You've remixed things in the past. How have those experiences of remixing those classic texts compared to this one? And did they prepare you at all for this?
Oh yeah, I love it every time though, because for me it always works, and it always like breaks open the play in a whole new way. You know, it always reveals a whole new layer in the text. And again, as a director, you're kind of always looking for a way to explore, reveal something new in the text. You know, or reveal it in a new way. And again, I think at one point it was progressive just to have black and brown actors on stage, right? But now I feel like where we are now is it's even more important to incorporate the culture of black and brown people into how you tell the story, you know. And that's, again, what I enjoy doing with classical theater, is really changing the aesthetic of how you tell the story.
Okay.
King Lear and Capoeira, how do you pull that off?
Right. Well, yeah. So, yeah, I worked on a production at the Yale Repertory about 10 years ago, and this is one of the early productions that when I really started to kind of explore this idea, thanks to a great friend and mentor, Avery Brooks, who's a wonderful stage actor and film actor. And he's really one who kind of opened my eyes, you know, to the possibilities, you know. So I was invited to incorporate capoeira, and this was Avery's idea of he wanted to explore how do people move in America 3,000 years before Columbus arrived. You know, and there's research that there were African kings that came to the New World. And so we, you know, Avery's idea was, well, with King Lear as one of the last of these African kings in the New World, you know, and nobody knows how they moved 3,000 years ago. So again, we use capoeira to create a unique movement vocabulary in the fights and how you stand and how you move. And that really kind of informs a lot of how I approach work with the fairies in this play is the same way. You know, we create a whole unique way of moving the body tell the story.
I love it. We know where we can see it, but when can we start seeing it, and how long can we see it?
You can come check us out any night except Monday at 7:30 p.m. at Marcus Garvey Park, Richard Rogers Amphitheater through Tuesday, July 30th.
Oh, well, thank you guys so much for being here, and congratulations.
Thank
We will
you.
definitely be coming
Thank you
to
very
see you.
much.
Awesome.
Definitely.
You're
Thanks
gonna
so
love
much.
it. You're gonna love it.
I know it.
We'll see you there.
I can already
Both
tell.
there.
I can already
Thanks,
tell.
guys. You're watching Arise Entertainment 360.